The GameCube was part of the 6th generation of home consoles. You know what? I've never heard anyone actually explain what that means. Everyone just sort of says the generation the consoles are a part of. So this is why. Console generation started with the original home console, the Magnavox Odyssey, with Pong in 1972. Followed that up with the first home console to use cartridges, the Fairchild Channel F in 76. And then we hit the third and most familiar generation in 1985 with the Nintendo Entertainment System. So then follow the console release trails and you get up to the GameCube and PS2 era as the 6th generation. This generation I feel is an interesting one. While the previous generation is the generation that introduced home 3D gaming, this generation was focused more on refining it. It's the generation where every controller had dual analog sticks aside from Dreamcast, RIP Dreamcast, RIP. They found what really worked for a gamepad, and in my opinion, all of the consoles had competent controllers regardless of your preferences. I can and still use all of these today. Funny enough, I heard people describe the C-stick on the GameCube controller as a nipple, and since then, I can't unsee it. All these consoles had so many banger games. Some are still regarded as the best of all time. The GameCube certainly pulled its weight with games like Super Smash Bros. Melee, the Metroid Prime series, Wind Waker, the list goes on. But today, I want to chat about some more obscure and weirder titles I frickin' loved growing up. This was going to be a list of 10, but I just went ham and picked out a bunch. I could have done more to be honest, but let's get into it. I'm going to start this video with a set of Marvel games. Marvel was busting out the movie tie-in games, and some of them were amazing, like the legendary Spider-Man 2. But they also had some absolute bangers unrelated to anything back then. They were just pumping out game after game. Here are a few I loved that I don't see talked about too often. X-Men Next Dimension was one of my favorite fighting games. It's the third installment in the Mutant Academy series. It slaps hard. I think the roster was really dope with characters like Havoc, Bishop, and my personal favorite, Beast. I mean, look at this fight with Juggernaut. I freaking love it. It had a fun combo system, and for me, I think the thing I particularly loved about it was how easy the combos were to execute. While you have some that get a bit more advanced, it didn't have any Street Fighter levels of left, roll down, B, up, A, down, left bullcrap. It's usually like hit Y and X or left A, B. Simplified and effective, and every character has different inputs. I also love the environments and knocking my opponents through walls into other areas. This is such a cool title, and if you're an X-Men or Marvel fan, I highly recommend it. Plus, it had a good story about the Sentinels. Another Marvel game I loved was Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects. Listen, this was jank and flawed, no doubt. But that didn't stop me from loving the concept of a 3D arena fighter set in the Marvel universe. It was one of the few Marvel games I could also play as one of my favorite superheroes, Daredevil. The plotline was pretty good, focusing around an alien invasion and a new enemy called the Imperfects. All of the Imperfects are interesting in design and abilities, though I personally would rather have had just more mainstream Marvel characters. Like instead of Johnny Ohm, give me Johnny Blaze. But the gameplay is very solid. It has a story mode which includes some light action adventure beat-em-up stuff, but this game shines in multiplayer with your friends. My nephew absolutely loves this game and requests to play it with me every time he's over. The final Marvel game I want to chat about is about the Hulk. No, it's not Hulk Ultimate Destruction, though that is a banger. I feel everyone knows of that game, and that went on to inspire the Prototype series. But before that, we had an interesting Hulk game based on the movie that released in 2003. This game actually features you playing not only as Hulk, but also as Bruce Banner. When you're the Hulk, it's a beat-em-up style game and you defeat enemies and progress through the levels, but when playing as Banner, it becomes a stealth action game with puzzles. I loved the dynamic between the two playstyles, and the game does them both well enough. It also had this really cool cel-shaded style, and although you were limited by the scope of the levels, they give you enough enemies and destructibles in the environment to make you feel like a force of nature when playing as Hulk. It's a fun one, and definitely worth a play. There are many more Marvel bangers in this generation, so definitely go check them out. But that's all I'll talk about for Marvel today. I'm going to move on to a fun one by Argonaut Games and published by Namco, I, Ninja. This game is over the top silly. You play as a character named Ninja, and you have to defeat Emperor Oder. The game starts with you saving your sensei only to accidentally kill him in the very beginning of the game, and then his ghost guides you from there on out on what to do. The game plays an action platformer style, and you have sword-based combat with things like a grapple chain and shuriken to help expand the moveset. The cool thing about this game is its use of momentum physics and things like running up and down half pipes and ramps. I mean, it's fast-paced and exciting, and the more enemies you take out and level up, the cooler you look. Plus they have these intense anime-style battles on occasion. This game is a lot of fun. I remember getting it for Christmas when I was younger with a special rocker chair that had speakers built into it. It was an epic iNinja Christmas. The next game on my list is one that feels like a fever dream that we all collectively had at the same time. As a kid, I was a big fan of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I mean, who wasn't, to be honest? This love of skateboarding was further cemented into my brain by shows like Rocket Power and even a few of those games as well. But the game I want to talk about today is from neither of those series. Picture Tony Hawk's Pro Skater but with Timon and Pumbaa. Yeah, that's friggin' right. It sounds great. Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure was exactly that. Pro Skater with Disney characters and worlds. You could create your own character and ride around in all different worlds, accepting challenges from different NPCs like toy soldiers or a lioness. The roster includes major characters from Toy Story, Tarzan, and The Lion King. And all of them are super silly in both what they ride and the moves they pull off. Timon and Pumbaa ride a piece of frickin' wood. It doesn't even have wheels. It's amazing how silly this game is. It even has a McDonald's. But the best part is it's a competent Pro Skater clone. One would argue not quite as strong, but competent nonetheless. If you love Disney, it's definitely one to check out. Let's keep this Disney train rolling and jump into Tarzan Untamed. For me personally, this is what I imagined the original Tarzan on the N64 and PS1 was going to be like. A 3D tree-sliding jungle adventure. At first, you may think this is an easy kid-oriented game, but as you progress, you'll find a challenge worth of any pro gamer. Collecting everything will take effort. And there's a trick system so you can look stylish while you do it. It's honestly a really cool homage to Tarzan. I think this is more based on the Tarzan and Jane cartoon series on Disney, but it's a very cool game nonetheless, and the variety of gameplay will keep you interested and hooked the whole time. Now let's bungee jump on over to the next title. Sticking with Disney, this movie tie-in is another banger, The Incredibles. A lot of these movie tie-in games don't get enough credit for slapping like they did, and The Incredibles slaps. Decent visuals for the time, and a plot that directly follows the movie. I think the thing that sets this game apart is the sheer variety of gameplay. While most of the time you'll be playing as Mr. Incredible, the style is a beat-em-up action-adventure, and you have a decent variety of moves. Then you'll swap over to Elastigirl and stretch your way to victory. Although it's also a beat-em-up, her gameplay definitely feels different and focuses more on things like grappling and throwing grenades back at your foes, plus this fun little slap move when you press the R button. And occasionally you'll switch to one of the kids. Dash's gameplay is like Sonic Boost style gameplay before Sonic Boost gameplay was a thing, and Violet offers stealth levels where you need to manage your energy to stealthily get past enemies. The variety is here, the gameplay is here, and it's just a fun one overall. It even has a direct sequel. Now, a series I love. We need this back. Viewtiful Joe. Originally a Gamecube exclusive, the series published by Capcom is an absolute banger of a title. The visual style still holds up well today, and it's themed around superheroes and movies, so you get VFX powers like slow motion, super speed, and zoom. The sequel adds even more mechanics with a tag-in system with Joe's girlfriend Sylvia. If you're a fan of side-scrolling action beat-em-ups, Viewtiful Joe is a top-tier pick. We had a couple games in the series that crossed over several consoles, but the Gamecube is definitely the place to go for the most beautiful experience. Henshin a go-go, baby. And speaking of slow-mo gameplay, the next game on this list I had no business loving, and yet I did. Enter the Matrix, based on the movie, but rather than focusing on Neo or Trinity, it focused on Ghost and Niobe. The gameplay here is a third-person shooter with kung fu combat. You have a focus meter that puts you in bullet time, making all of your attacks stronger and more precise, and you can do some epic wall running and flips and crap. This game is all about beating up people and looking cool while doing it, and I'm here for it. There's even a level where you have to fight vampire-like people, and it was my favorite growing up. Don't sleep on this one. Take the red pill and see how far the rabbit hole goes. Plus, it's so big it has 2 discs on Gamecube. Epic. Almost as epic as Wallace and Gromit. If you're a fan of this cheeky little claymation series, you don't want to miss this title. An action platformer collectathon, Wallace and Gromit Project Zoo plays fairly well and has a fun plot. We have to save the zoo from Feathers McGraw. We play as Gromit, and we can do some fun flippy moves and get various gadgets and weaponry created for us by Wallace, who seems to be only limited by the amount of parts we can find for him. This guy, literally right in the beginning, converts a telescope at the zoo into a high-powered banana shooter with just some nuts and bolts. Insane. The game seriously has a lot of charm, and it's a fun one. I never see anyone talk about it, or even aware that it exists. And when people do talk about a Wallace and Gromit game, it's usually about the Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which was their movie tie-in game around Halloween. I don't know why this one got thrown under the radar, but here it is. Go check it out. And save the zoo. But before you save the zoo, maybe you can save Tora Tora Land, a new amusement park. I was a sucker for a few anime as a kid. Beyblade, Pokemon, Beatamon, and Medabots. I had tons of these figures growing up, and when I saw this game at EB Games back in the day, I snagged it for a decent price. Or rather, my parents did. It's a fun little RPG focusing mostly on earning parts to customize your Medabot with new abilities. It has a fun anime-like visual style, and it's fun to experiment with different weapons and parts. It also offers and highlights connectivity to the GBA counterpart games, but I never really tried that. Maybe one day. This game just hits my nostalgia bone, and honestly, hearing that theme after all these years just makes me pure happy. Just like the next game on this list, Sonic Riders. This was a series Sega should really bring back. This was the era of Sonic where they just kept throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And while this era had plenty of stinkers, Sonic Riders was not one of them. This game hits hard. The hoverboards aren't the only vehicle you get, as you can also get bikes and skates, and even a few special vehicles. This is before the Sega All-Star stuff, and yet we still had Monkey Ball, Space Channel 5, and Knights represented in this title, which is just epic. The gameplay is super fast-paced, focusing on managing your air power and recovering it when needed. If you time your jump, you can do epic tricks, and the best part of this game is taking a cue from Sonic Heroes and adding alternate type routes. So say you're a speed type, you can go grind rails, or if you're a fly type, you'll have a path to fly over obstacles, or power, and you can punch your way through a wall. There's a lot of cool stuff here, and the game does everything well. This is a series I think got a little burned going to the Kinect. Sega, bring this back. At this point, I felt I should stop because I could keep talking about games in my collection, but you know what? Fine, I'll talk about one more to finish this video off since you're all twisting my arm. Probably my favorite movie tie-in game apart from Spider-Man 2, Batman Begins. This game. This mother-grabbing game. Those who watch my channel know when I say that, we have something special. If you're a fan of the Arkham series, this is its precursor. There were some competent Batman games before this, specifically Batman Vengeance that follows the animated series, and while that game laid the groundwork for a 3D Batman, Batman Begins took everything that made that good and then evolved it to the next level. The combat isn't as strong as the Arkham games, few games are to be honest, but this was the first Batman game where you had to cleverly use your environment to your advantage to scare your opponents and make them sloppy, like breaking a crazy person free to attack enemies. It even had fun Batmobile segments and followed the movie closely. This game is fire, and it deserves to be talked about more. I played it so much growing up. Do you remember any of the games on this list? Are you gonna go try some? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, that's all I have for you. I hope you'll drop a like in this video and subscribe so you don't miss a future upload. Check out my weird N64 games list for some ideas on that console. Until next time, have a good one.
Jiggylookback!